Hey there, it's Wendy from Worldwide Speak. This video is about the argumentative essay. It's a basic introduction for the English language learner. Let me help you understand why we write this essay and what you need to put in the essay to make it clear and strong. Let's learn. First, why do we write this type of essay? Why do we write the argumentative essay? Well, the purpose of the essay is to convince your reader of your point of view by making a clear and strong argument. You also need to show the reader that you understand your opponent's point of view, but your argument is better. Now, let's talk about the structure of the essay. Remember, this is just a basic introduction. So I've made the structure a 4-paragraph essay. As you move up in your writing and you become more advanced, you will probably have many more paragraphs. But remember, we're just beginning. Let's keep it simple. So your first paragraph is your introduction paragraph. This has a hook, some background, and a thesis. The next paragraph, I'll call body paragraph number 1, this is where you have all of your reasons and your examples to support your argument. You have a topic sentence first and a concluding sentence last, with all of that evidence or those reasons and examples in the middle. Next, you have body paragraph number 2. And this is where the argumentative essay is special. You include a paragraph that shows the opposite side's point of view, and you give an example of why they think that way, to show the reader that you understand the other side, but you are going to refuse that opinion of the other side with your refutation, and you're going to show the reader why, with evidence, your argument is stronger. And last, we have the conclusion paragraph with a restated, stronger thesis, some emphasis about the importance of your argument or your opinion, your point of view, and lastly, a warning or a prediction. I'm going to go through each paragraph of this essay and tell you the parts of the essay and how you need to go about writing those parts. This will help you understand the entire essay and exactly what you need to make it clear and strong. Let's begin with the introduction paragraph. Here is where you grab your reader's attention. You're going to start with what's known as the hook. Kind of like that little fish going towards the hook. You want to hook your reader into reading your essay because it's interesting and they're curious to learn about what you have to say. Because of this, you want to make your first sentence as interesting as possible by using a fact, a surprising statement, or even a question. You want your reader to be curious about your essay. You want to hook them in to reading it. Then, you need to provide some background information about this issue and that you understand what the issue is and who it's important to. That gives your reader the context or the background as to why you're writing this essay. And last, you have your thesis, the most important sentence of your essay. This states your point of view. This gives your opinion. This is a very clear sentence that tells the reader exactly how you feel about this issue. That's why sometimes the argumentative essay, when we're beginning, is called the opinion essay. We give our opinion about an issue. That reader needs to know your clear and definitive stance on the issue, and that comes from your strong, clear thesis. Okay, so for example, let's say we have a prompt, should students wear a uniform to school? Well, what would our hook be? Maybe we could say something like this. Imagine waking up and not having to think about what you were going to wear each day. That would be so nice. Look, you got the reader's attention by having them do something. You've asked them to imagine something. You've already pulled them in and made them do something. You asked them to imagine something. That's a great way to start. Then why don't we give some background about the issue we're talking about? This is the case for many students across the world who wear uniforms to school. Of course, not all schools require a uniform. Some schools let their students wear whatever they want each day, but this is not the best decision. Here, you have shown the reader there are two sides to this issue. One side is students wear uniforms, the other side is that they don't. And then you give the reader an inkling or a hint of which side you're going to be on. And last, remember, you need your thesis to be clear. Students should definitely wear uniforms to school. That's a strong, clear statement that gives the reader exactly what they need to know which side of this issue you're on. They know you believe in your mind that students should wear uniforms to school. And then it's going to be your job in the next paragraph to convince the reader why your opinion is the stronger or better opinion. Now, I showed you what the pieces looked like in the last slide. And now I'd like to show you what it looks like if you were going to write it for school. Why don't we read this together? Imagine waking up and not having to think about what you were going to wear each day. That would be so nice. This is the case for many students across the world who wear uniforms to school. Of course, not all schools have uniforms. Some schools let their students wear whatever they want each day, but this is not the best decision. Students should definitely wear uniforms to school. Let's take a look at body paragraph number 1. This is where you prove your point. You do this by providing facts and explanations with such specific detail that your reader clearly understands you. We begin with a topic sentence that supports the main argument of the thesis, and then we give a fact. We give something that is true or generally accepted to support our point of view. And then we want to follow that up with a specific detail about what that fact looks like in real life. What does this fact mean to the reader? And then after fact and interpretation 2 and 3, you'll have a concluding sentence that just wraps up the paragraph. Okay, I'd like to take a second here to talk about fact and interpretation. That might be something new to you. Let's take an example like this. Let's say your prompt is, tell what pet is the best to own. And your thesis is, dogs are the best pets. Now, in your body paragraph, let's say you give this fact. First, dogs are very loyal and social creatures. Well, you've stated the fact, which is a truth or a generally accepted belief about dogs. And then now you need to show the reader what loyal and social means. You can say that, but it's not enough. You have to take that fact and expand on it with a detail that creates a picture in the mind of the reader of what loyal and social is. Take a look. For the interpretation, we can say, for example, a dog will greet its owner at the door and wag its tail when touched. A dog can get depressed, like humans, when left for too many hours alone. Some depressed dogs even destroy pillows or household items in protest. When we interpret the facts, we show the reader what loyal and social means or looks like. We need to give this specific example. And it shows the reader that our point is even stronger because we have given them an instance, an example, a detail of exactly what this means. And I'd like to make a note as well. In the fact and in the interpretation, I use transition words. For fact, I used first. That was my first fact. And for the interpretation, I say, for example. All right, so I've shown you what the fact and interpretation looks like. Let's apply that knowledge to the prompt we are working on. Should students wear a uniform to school? Well, let's have a topic sentence. There are numerous reasons why wearing a uniform to school is advantageous. We know that this paragraph is only going to focus on reasons why a uniform at school is advantageous. That's it. That's the purpose of this paragraph. Your topic sentence tells the reader that. Let's look at fact number 1. First, you see I use that transition word and then a comma. The uniforms create a sense of unity. Now, how am I going to show the reader what unity looks like for children in schools who wear uniforms? Maybe something like this. In fact, a recent study by the journal Independent Education showed that students felt more pride in being part of a group when they wore a uniform to school. It gave them a strong sense of identity. Here we go. We have shown the reader with a specific detail backed by evidence what a sense of unity looks like with a uniform. You're going to do the same thing for fact 2 and fact 3 with providing them the facts and then a specific detail. And then you're going to finish up the paragraph with your concluding sentence. And it's going to look something like this. These reasons clearly show how beneficial uniforms are to school. Why don't we take a look at what this would look like if you were to write it for school with all of the facts and all of the details? Why don't you read this with me? There are numerous reasons why wearing a uniform to school is advantageous. First, the uniforms create a sense of unity. In fact, a recent study by the journal Independent Education showed that students felt more pride about being part of a group when they wore a uniform to school. It gave them a strong sense of identity. Second, it is clear that the students are at school to learn when they are in uniforms. For example, wearing assigned formal attire is a physical boundary that signals to the brain that you're in a specific setting. The uniform is a way of showing the brain that when you put this outfit on, it's time to learn. Last, uniforms give students one less thing to think about in their busy, stressful lives. In particular, some research suggests that students who wear uniforms to school have decreased levels of anxiety. When they go to get dressed, it's automatic. They don't have to waste time deciding on an outfit, and they can focus instead on the chemistry test they may have in first period. All of these reasons clearly show how beneficial uniforms are to the overall school environment. Remember how I showed you in the fact and interpretation about the transition words I used? I just again would like to show you the transition words I used in this body paragraph because they are really important in your writing. Those words signal to the reader order and sequence, and it makes it super easy to read your paragraph and your essay. Without transitions, the reader can become easily confused, and we don't want that. So for the facts, I used first, second, and last. And then for each fact, I used a different transition to start off the specific detail or example. I used in fact, for example, and in particular. When you're starting off your examples or your details, you need to use the transition word, but make sure that you use different ones so it doesn't sound too repetitive. If you just used for example, that would be a little boring, repetitive, and you might lose the interest of your reader. Now the good stuff. Body paragraph number 2. This shows the opposing point of view's argument, and then it shows the reader why that viewpoint is weak and your viewpoint is stronger. This is an exciting paragraph to write. You have a counter-argument with an example, and you have a refutation with an example. What is this counter-argument? Counter-argument just means the argument opposite of yours. This shows the opposing opinion. You include this to show that you understand why the other side thinks the way they do. You understand it. You have a clear idea of why they think that way. And then you want to give an example to show why the opposing point of view thinks that way. But you refuse this point of view. You refuse this opinion of the other side. And then you state why your viewpoint is stronger. The refutation, you refuse that other side's idea or point of view or opinion. And then you show a very specific example of why your refutation is stronger. Let's take a look at this with a different example, kind of like the one that I showed you for fact or interpretation. The prompt is still, tell what pet is best to own. Your thesis, dogs are the best pet. Now, here's a counter-argument. The counter-argument, remember, is the opposite point of view. It would sound something like this. Some say that dogs are not very good pets to have. For instance, they cost a lot of money from having them groomed to yearly vaccinations. Well, you showed why people don't think having a pet is the best, and then you gave a specific example. You talked about costing a lot of money. So, in your refutation, your job is to show what? Your job is to show that dogs don't have to cost a lot of money. You have to make sure your refutation shows that that example you used for the counter-argument is wrong. Make sure the counterargument and the refutation match each other. Let's take a look at what that looks like. In contrast, this is not necessarily true. Dogs do not have to cost their owners tons and tons of money. People can wash their own dogs instead of paying a professional, and they can also take advantage of low-cost vaccines at local grocery stores and pet stores. Being a dog owner can definitely fit anyone's budget. You see what I did there? I took the argument that dogs are expensive, and I showed that was a weak argument by explaining to the reader that people can wash their own dogs. They don't have to take them to an expensive groomer. And grocery stores and pet stores often have super cheap vaccinations, and I can choose to do that. And I tell the reader, dogs can fit anyone's budget. What does this look like when we write it for our prompt? Remember, our prompt is, should students wear a uniform to school? Well, and we think they should, right? That's our opinion. Now, let's show the opposing opinion, the opposing point of view. Many people think that wearing a school uniform limits a student's ability to express themselves as individuals. Now, I need to show an example of individuality. For instance, they claim that students who dress how they want have higher self-esteem because they see themselves as unique. Unique means special, one of a kind. So I've showed that people who research have said that students who can be who they want to have higher self-esteem. Now, your job in your paper is to refuse that point of view. You need to come back and show that that's not true. And you're going to use refutation like this. However, and that word however shows contrast. You have to use one of those contrast transition words. A lot of people who work in schools can tell you that's not the case at all. And here's an example. Specifically, students conform to societal trends that actually inhibit their expression of individuality. The hallways are filled with girls all wearing the same types of tops and jeans, and the boys in similar outfits to each other, even though there is no official uniform. It is their nature to want to be part of a group, and a uniform allows them to feel this with no outside pressure. Here is what that paragraph looks like in real life if you were going to write it for school. Why don't you take a minute to quickly read through the paragraph in its entirety. Now, I want to emphasize that the opposing point of view was that students can't be individuals. And my job in this paragraph is, well, one, to show an opposing point of view, which is that it doesn't allow students to express their individuality. And my job with the refutation is to show that that's not true. And I use that transition word to show opposition. And you can use a different transition word. It just depends what you like. You can use however, in contrast, on the other hand, nevertheless. And I show this contrast, this refutation, by saying that students conform to societal trends that actually inhibit their expression of individuality. That even though they can dress however they want, they're still not behaving like individuals. Last, the conclusion paragraph. You've written your introduction. You've told the reader what your point of view is. You had your body paragraph number 1 with all of your evidence, your reasons, your examples, your facts, your interpretations. You had your counter argument that showed the other side's point of view, and then your refutation where you refused that and said, hey, that's weak. My side's stronger. Let me show you why. And now you have the last paragraph. This is your last chance to convince the reader of your point of view. You also want them to keep thinking about your viewpoint even after they finish reading. Let me show you how to do this. The first sentence of that conclusion paragraph needs to have a stronger thesis. Remember, you need to convince the reader. And so you need to be even stronger after you've given them the evidence, you showed them the other side was weak. Now, you're going to restate your thesis, but in stronger words. What does that mean? That means you're going to use expressions like must or have to. That's stronger than should. You want to solidify your viewpoint in the mind of the reader. And remember to begin the paragraph with a conclusion transition like in sum or in conclusion. Then you want to emphasize the importance of your viewpoint, and you can just add a sentence here why it's important. And last, the way you're going to keep your reader thinking about your essay is to give a warning or a prediction. That type of sentence is going to make your reader think about your essay and think about your viewpoint and say, I wonder if that's what I should think based on all of this incredible evidence in the essay. Let's take a look at the conclusion paragraph and the parts you need. Remember our thesis? Students should definitely wear uniforms to school. Well, how are we going to restate this with a stronger one? It would look something like this. In sum, and you see I use that transition, if schools want an excellent atmosphere for learning, then the students must wear uniforms. Do you see what I did there? I changed the word should to must. Must is stronger than should. And then I'm going to just emphasize the importance of uniforms, and it will look something like this. It is such a simple way to create a sense of community and belonging, which is essential for the mental health of all children. And lastly, I want the reader to think about my viewpoint even after they're finished reading. So I'm going to write something like this. When students feel secure and less stressed, they will be more successful in school. And an educational environment like that certainly sounds like the best course of action for the future. That's my prediction. If everybody wears uniforms, we'll have a better educational environment in the future. This is what it would look like if you wrote it in real life like you would for school. You can pause the video here and take time to read it. And lastly, I just wanted to show you what the essay would look like in its entirety. I'm not going to take the time to read this now, but it is on our website in PDF form, so you can download it and take the time to read it and analyze it. If you want, you can go over this video again with that essay, and you can highlight and circle the important pieces and parts that I talked about. Let's review. We have our introduction paragraph that states our position clearly. That reader needs to know your viewpoint. Body paragraph number 1 supports your viewpoint with your facts and your interpretations. Body paragraph number 2 gives the counter argument and refutation. You show the other side, and then you refuse it and show why it's weak. And last, you have your conclusion paragraph with your stronger thesis using stronger words and a warning and a prediction to keep your reader thinking about your writing. Remember, all of these pieces, all of these paragraphs, make up the entire argumentative essay. It's all one thing, even though you have different paragraphs. Each paragraph has a job to do, a specific job, and altogether they make up the whole argumentative essay. You can do this. Now you know how to write a clear and strong argumentative essay. You know all of the parts to all of the paragraphs that you need to write this strong, clear, effective, argumentative essay. Now, there is a lot more to learn about the argumentative essay. And if you're interested in that, you can always go to our website at worldwidespeak.com and you can sign up for live one-to-one coaching. There are also examples of paragraphs on our website and other resources for you there. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I know you can do it.